Okay, so now we're ready to sew our blocks. Like I said, I already have most of my blocks sewn together, so this is just to kind of show you what you need to do for the very beginning block. I have all mine sewn. All we're going to do is sew an X through your block to hold the blocks together so that when you wash it, they're not opening up and moving apart. So that's part of the quilting process. Usually you would do this by hand afterwards, a nice decorative stitch or whatever it is that you want to do. But for this one, all you're going to do, like I said, is just put the X's. If you want to instead make like a circle to hold it together, just do a circle. You can do that. Like I said, if you're going to draw a little heart, you can draw a heart, and then when you go to stitch it, you would stitch out that shape, a star, whatever it is. Right now, this is a very basic tutorial. I'm going to do X's. I am going to be making a lot of these quilts, I think, for Christmas. I think that'd be a nice gift because a lot of times kids have so much stuff, and my nieces and nephews, I mean, there's a lot of them also, so I think what I'm going to do is make a blanket for each one of them with their name on it, because I also have an embroidery machine. But I'll probably do a little more decorative stitches, so if you'd like to see those quilts as I make them, or what I did with them, please let me know, and I'll include either videos of that or pictures. But for right now, we're just going to do X's, okay? The only other thing I did on this that was a little more decorative is on the front, I used green thread. You can kind of see that going through there. And on the back side, I used just a beige regular old thread. And I don't even know why I did that, just for fun. So what you're going to do is take all 30 of your blocks, and I usually just stack them up by my machine and just start going, okay? So for this one, I'll just start with one of these. They're already paired together. Remember how I showed you in your last video that you don't have to take it apart. They're already paired together just the way you're going to be sewing them. If you are going to be using batting, which I'll show in another video, not in this one, you would cut your batting at 6 inches because you want the batting to be the size of the block that you want at the end. So if your final block size is 6 inches, you want a 6-inch piece of batting, you would stick that, go ahead and cut it 6 inches square and put it in between your 2 pieces of fabric, okay? And then you're going to do the exact same stitching like I'm showing you now. So I would open up my, oh gosh, the feed dog, well the feed dog's at the bottom. Let's just lift up the foot, your presser foot, that's the word for it. And I need this to set at 1 because I want it to go right down the middle. I'm setting my needle so that it goes right down the middle of the presser foot, okay? Because a lot of times they'll either stitch left to it, to the right of it. I want it right in the middle. So just do whatever your machine does, however you choose that. I'm going to put the foot down. I usually to start it, I kind of hold the threads because I don't want it to end up going back in. A lot of times you'll start and the thread comes right out. And that's just because I didn't pull it long enough. So right now I'm going to just hold it, and using the actual turning mechanism on my machine, I'm going to bring the needle down. I also have this button, since it's a computerized machine, I don't want to go too much into because everyone has different machines, that says needle down. I would press that and it'll put the needle down for me, but I just do it manually because I'm old school. I have a lot of old machines too that don't have any of this. So all I'm going to do, now if you're not good at stitching a straight line, what I would do is also with the dressmaker's chalk is draw an X going from corner to corner using your ruler, draw an X, and then follow those lines, okay? So for me, since this is only 7 inches, I just eyeball it. I'm gonna start, and as it's going through, I just make sure that I'm keeping it straight. And we are sewing, like I said, a diagonal. So it's going diagonally from one corner to the other. And I haven't picked up my presser foot. I'm not gonna do anything like that. I'm just gonna let this stitch all the way out. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer. I don't know if that's gonna help. That should help a little bit, sorry. Okay, so that's gone in. And I haven't lifted my presser foot, it's still there. This is called chain sewing, so you're just gonna keep sewing them all and then come in the other direction and sew the rest of it. So I'm gonna keep going. And when I get to the very end of that one, I'm gonna lift my presser foot just a little bit and bring in the next one. And let it sew. Okay. One other thing I didn't mention at the beginning is how I got the 2 different colors of thread is in my bobbin thread, I have a green thread in there. Okay, so the green thread is in here, and in my top thread I have just the beige thread, so it's going to have different colors of thread. Now I would just continue going, put the next one and let it keep going, and once you're done, then I would go ahead and let the machine finish it off. Okay, lift that up. And then I would come around and then cut it off. Now you're going to have these things that are stitched together. And where it's stitched together, like see here, right there, stitched together. I am going to take my scissor and just cut that. So now you have your 2 patches. Now, of course, let me back up just a little bit. You only have the stitching in one direction, okay? We need an X. So when you're all done going in the one direction, you would cut them all, you know, take them all apart. And you're gonna have 30 patches. I'm gonna come in and go in the other direction. So now, since we have this diagonal line we just stitched, we're gonna come in and just stitch this diagonal line. So diagonally, in the opposite corner, I'm gonna put this down, put my needle down, and again, we'll start stitching. Just straight stitching straight across. And when I get towards the end, I'm going to bring in the next guy and stitch right across that too. Okay? And if you're not comfortable doing this chain stitching where you just keep going, I'm telling you, you're going to get better at it because it's just going to make it that much faster when you make a lot of quilts, or even the one quilt you're going to make. Just, if you're not comfortable doing that, then just when you're done with the first one, you know, let it sew out, take it off, do the next one. The other thing you're saving is thread, because every time you just do the one, cut it, pull more thread, do the next one, cut it, pull more thread, you're pulling thread every time instead of just going through and, you know, getting it done. Let me show you right quick. So now, on both sides of the patches that we just did, there is an X, okay? So that's all we did there, and it's hard to see, but hopefully you can see that. And now we have these two patches done. So these are completely done. They're ready to be met up with the other patches, okay? So I'm gonna show you right now the configuration, how I'm gonna be sewing them. I'm now gonna lay them out on the floor and show you that, and then we'll start sewing again from there. Okay, so I'm gonna get down here on the floor with y'all, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Usually I lay this out like on a bed, or you can put it on your carpet on your floor like I did. All I did was put out every block what's the word? Just one after the other, okay? So I'm alternating between the green and the monkey, or you can start with the monkey and the green. It doesn't matter, because if you think it does matter, here is green, monkey, green, monkey, green. At the bottom of the quilt, you have monkey, green, monkey, green, monkey. If you were to flip it around, it would be, you know, it's the same. It just depends on how you like it, whatever you want to do. But you're gonna lay down your 5 blocks, alternating one to the other, and every row is going to have 5 blocks alternating one, and then on the next row you're going to alternate from the monkey to green, monkey, and then so on, okay? And you're going to have 5 blocks, 6 rows long. So even if you were to line them up this way, put out your pattern this way, it's the same thing. You're just going to alternate from whichever one you start with to the next, and then keep going that way, okay? So hopefully this is kind of a good visual of how the blanket's going to turn out. I don't know how well my camera's picking it up, but right here on this block, I had stitched my friend's son's name. It says Colton. I don't know if you can see that, but so that's the only difference I made there, is I have his little name on there. And then we're just going to start sewing these together. And generally how I sew them together is I start with, you can start wherever you want. At the top, stitching these side ones, stitching these bottom ones. I'm going to do this bottom. And what you're going to do is, like I have here, is put them together like a sandwich, back to back, the backs of the let me stand up so you can see it a little better. I was just thinking, where am I? Okay, so you're going to put back to back, and you're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance and just sew up 1/2 inch, because that's what you're going to be cutting into to make that little shaggy trim, okay? So you're going to pair them up 2 by 2, and clearly these two are matched up. I'm going to match up these two and bring them up together so that they're back to back, and we're going to sew 1/2 inch. We did this one. Now there's one left at the end. So what I do is I just leave those there. So I'm going to sew all these together. Those paired up, this paired up, this paired up. You see how I'm picking them up so they end up back to back? That paired up all the way up. I'm going to sew them, and when I get to the very end, I'm going to have all those at the end. So I'm going to come back with the one that I just stitched, the stitching up, and I'm going to pair this guy up with this next one, and then go through and just do those together also. So we'll talk about that right now when we get to the machine. So we're going to start sewing our pairs. Now, to keep them in order, you can either pick them up 2 at a time where you had them laid out so that you don't get confused, or like I do, I pick them up, and generally I do pin these because I want them to be perfect as far as lining up in the middle and on the edges. So what I would do is I get my pins out, And I have the kind of little ball head, that way when you pull them out, it's easier to pull out. But you're gonna pin them so that they're pretty even, centered together. Like for me, for the decorative, I wanted the green stitching up, facing up, so I have my green stitching facing up. These guys were laying next to each other just like this, if you recall, on the floor. So when I pick them up, they're back to back, what you consider the back of the quilt. And I would try to line those up as best I can. Kind of get that. And then I'm just going to pin the very edges to keep it from shifting. I usually, you know, you can pin it however you like. Some people pin them long ways like this. I like to pin them up with the pin facing up, because when I put it in my machine, as I sew through them, I'll be able to pull the pins out and it doesn't go through my machine. Some people sew right over their pins. I fear that, like something's gonna bust and poke my eye. So that's all I'm gonna do to all of them, and then I would just stack them here and I'd be ready to sew as I go, right? So now what I want to do is set my machine so that my let me bring that up just a second, sorry. So I want to set my machine so that my needle is far to the left, because that makes it, if I line it up with the edge of my presser foot, I'll have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? So that means I need it back at 0, is what this brother machine calls the far left position. And all you're gonna do is line it up with the edge of my presser foot. And for my machine, that's what gives me a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, if your machine's a little bit different, you just want to do wherever it is that you will get a 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? So I'm gonna drop my needle and just start stitching. This time, I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna switch out my thread so that they're both beige, because it's gonna be inside the seam allowance. You're not really even gonna see it when you do the trimming that makes it nice and poofy. So I'm just gonna go straight across. And as I go, I pull out my needle. That's just how I like to do that. You don't have to. And this is just a straight stitch. You're just gonna go straight down, okay? So there you go. You already have one set put together. And it's gonna look just like this basically when you bring it out of the machine, okay? It's just gonna be stitched together. Yes, this is what's gonna be sticking up, and we're gonna cut into this ugliness, and it's gonna make the cute rag quilt, okay? So I'm gonna continue doing all my pairs just like this, okay?